Hi everyone, Alice here. Today I'm going to do my full autism assessment report. I planned to do it a while ago, but a few things happened where I weren't able to. So I'm going to just read certain bits. I'm not going to say names because it's confidential. So I'm going to just kind of read through it and kind of just discuss my overall autism assessment, like full summary. Summary of assessment under the adult autism pathway. Date of birth 19th of the 11th 93. I'm writing to confirm that you were assessed under the NHS adult autism pathway and subsequently received a diagnosis of autism, also known as autistic spectrum condition or ASC. During your feedback appointment, we also discussed the support that we agreed would be helpful both now and in the future. In particular, we spoke about attendance at our online learning resources, understanding autistic spectrum conditions, access to the NHS funded support available to adults who have received an autism diagnosis through our service, access to the wide range of autism support that is available within the community. For you, we discussed that it might be a particular priority to share your diagnosis with your mental health team. Please feel free to share this letter with professionals and anyone else who might need to understand about your diagnosis. If you have any questions, please do get back in touch. Yours sincerely. Multidisciplinary Diagnostic Assessment Report, Autism Spectrum Condition. Name Alice, date of birth 19th of the 11th 93, age of assessment 30, assessment date 9th of the 1st 24, neurodevelopmental interview 9th of the 1st 24. Following a full diagnosis assessment, the members of the multidisciplinary assessment panel have agreed that your social and behavioural profile is characterised of an autism spectrum condition. Therefore, a diagnosis of autism spectrum condition is appropriate for you. The purpose of the report. The report aims to summarise the multidisciplinary assessment of your strengths and difficulties, consider whether the profile of difficulties is consistent with a diagnosis of autism spectrum condition, provide information to support you going forward. Referral and initial assessment. You are referred to the family psychologist by mental health nurse from the neighbourhood mental health team in Worcester, with whom you discussed the possibility of a formal assessment for ASC. You described having experienced a range of difficulties which are impacting on your daily life and wanted to know if these difficulties could be explained by a possible diagnosis of an ASC. As part of the referral process, you also completed the Autism Spectrum Quotient Screening Questionnaire. Screening instruments are not test or diagnostic instruments, but they are useful in guiding clinical explorations. The AQ10 consists of 10 self-report questions which aim to investigate the symptoms of ASC. Individuals with ASC typically score 6 or higher, and you scored 8 on the questionnaire. This indicated that further investigation into the possibility of an ASC was warranted. You have told us that you have existing diagnoses of mental health conditions, including emotionally unstable personality disorder and social anxiety disorder, and that you have regular appointments with a psychologist in Worcester. Assessment process. Assessment was coordinated at the family psychologist and undertaken on the dates shown above. This assessment is based on the World Health Organization International Classification of Disease, ICD-11, and focusing on the 3 key areas of difficulty which are necessary for a diagnosis of ASC. These are difficulties in social communication skills, difficulties in reciprocal social interaction, in brackets, difficulty developing and maintaining social relationships, differences in flexibility of thought, routine and imagination. Some individuals also experience sensory and motor differences or difficulties. The age at which these difficulties were first noted is also important. To help us learn more about your difficulties, your assessment included several different appointments. These included Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule, ADOS assessment. The ADOS-2 is a standardized assessment of communication, social interaction, imaginative use of material, and restricted or repetitive behaviors in individuals who have possible ASC or other pervasive developmental disorders. During your ADOS-2 assessment, you completed a range of tasks which explored the things you enjoy, as well as the things that you find more challenging. The different tasks helps us look at the way you manage social interaction, communication, and feel about your everyday life. We also completed some tasks looking at imagination and creativity. A developmental and family history meeting. To provide an account of your early development and your wider social functioning, communication skills, a neurodevelopmental interview was held with your partner. Holding a meeting with someone who knows you well helps us to understand how your difficulties affect you in a wider life, as well as looking at how these have developed and changed over time. The comments provided have been included in the next section. The profile of strength and needs. The information gathered during the ADOS-2 assessment, as well as the comments from your partner and the referral process, was discussed by the team and compared to the autism spectrum conditions diagnosis criteria of the ICD-11. These areas are discussed below. Development before the age of 3. Was aware that you were born via C-section and you were in breech position. You were a healthy baby who met developmental milestones at the expected ages. He said that you have shared that in the preschool years you did not play with other children or make friends easily. Differences with elements of reciprocal social communication and interaction. During the ADOS assessment, your speech was observed to be at a low pitch and you spoke relatively slowly and deliberately. Your voice did not vary a great deal in tone as you spoke. At the appointment, you wore sunglasses and a hat, so it was not possible to tell whether you was using eye contact. You mentioned that you usually wear a hat in order to avoid giving eye contact. You did not use many gestures to support your speech. In conversation, your speech was a little formal. You tended not to use contractions, e.g. don't, rather, than do not. And some of the words you used were more formal in register, e.g. elevate. In conversation, you responded to the questions posted by the assessor, but you often needed additional prompts to expand on what you said. When talking about common interests, you acknowledged comments made by the assessor with a slight pause or smile, but you did not then respond further. It was often hard to gauge your reactions to what the assessor said due to your hat and sunglasses, which contributed to the conversation lacking some reciprocity. You mentioned that you find it very difficult speaking to people and that you often rely on your partner to do the talking for you in certain situations. My partner has observed that you prefer to avoid eye contact, but he feels you have a range of facial expressions which makes your emotions easy to read. Said that you can sometimes have a back and forth conversation showing interest in what others have to say, but he has also observed that you can also talk repetitively about your interests, sometimes sharing the same information various times, for example about a book you are reading. He has noticed that there are some phrases that you will say repeatedly, for example, I'm bored, up to 10 times a day. You said that at school you sometimes try to fit in by taking on other people's identities, by which you said you would dress like them, do your hair like them, and talk like them. You mentioned that you would smile, that you will still do this sometimes now when you become obsessed with someone. My partner said that you can be outspoken and find it difficult to hold back if you want to say something, even if it might be considered inappropriate to the situation. During the ADOS assessment, we talked about emotions. You identified situations that make you feel a variety of different emotions, and you describe some of the physical symptoms of emotions, such as anxiety and anger. You found it more difficult to describe how happiness felt, and you associated sadness with extreme manifestations of this emotion. You mentioned that you often feel lonely and you are afraid of being alone. You showed some awareness of other people's emotions and identified how one of the characters in the picture story may have been feeling. My partner said that you were good at noticing when someone else might be upset, and you often ask him if he is okay if he sighs. However, he feels that you find it more difficult to know what to do next if someone is not okay. My partner said that you will talk about how you are feeling. He is aware that at times your emotions can be overwhelming and you have a history of self-harm when this happens. When we talked about friendships, you said that there is an area you have always had difficulty with. You said that you did not have friends in school, just a few people you were okay to speak with. You said you were bullied in school and that you tried to act differently in order to fit in. You said that currently, although there are people you have met through your partner, you do not consider them as friends as you were introduced to them through your partner. You described what you felt a friend should be in theory and you understood the reciprocal nature of friendship, but you did not class yourself as having friends like this. You found it difficult to explain what the difference between a friend and a colleague, classmate is. You spoke fondly of your partner, but you focused mainly on what he does to support you in the relationship rather than describing it as reciprocal. My partner is aware that you have always found it difficult to make friends, and that you discovered with hindsight that those you thought were your friends in school were actually not your friends. He shared that your friends you have made as an adult have turned their back on you. My partner's friends consider you part of their friendship group, but my partner is aware that you can become overwhelmed if socializing with more than a few people at once. Restricted, repetitive and stereotyped behaviour. You explain that you find it helpful to plan your day ahead each morning by completing a bullet journal. You describe some aspects of your daily routine which must always be completed in a certain way or at a certain time, e.g. brushing your teeth as soon as you wake up or having lunch at the same time each day. You said that you tend to eat the same lunch every day for months at a time before switching to something else. You described a set routine you have for when you attend regular appointments. You said that you find it very difficult to manage change, and if anything disrupts your routine, then you have an anxiety episode. My partner spoke about how you have a daily routine and you do not like change. He said that change can cause a downward spiral in your mental health. He spoke about a time when you were unable to go on a trip out as planned due to him being unwell and you became extremely distressed. Rules can be important to you. Both you and your partner reported your strict rules about brushing your teeth. You also both mentioned rules around timing of meals. Some things you do not do have become ritualized. For example, the very specific ritual that you have for going to appointments, where you sit in the same seat on the bus and will become upset if you cannot sit in the same seat. My partner explained how you organise your books by height, size and width, and other items are arranged very specifically by height or colour, or in relation to the position next to something else. He also mentioned how you have very specific cutlery and crockery that you use for meals. No motor mannerisms were noted in the ADOS assessment. Your partner reported that you repeatedly stomp your feet, your foot and rub your hands. You spoke about a number of different interests in the ADOS appointment, for example, true crime, Sims and Minecraft. You described how you became intensely absorbed with your interests. For example, when making a Minecraft model of St. Paul's Cathedral or Alcatraz, you said you would only sleep for around 2 hours and would forget to eat. You said you would do a lot of research about the building and try to make them as accurate as possible. Your partner said that, as well as your interest in The Sims, Minecraft and books, you also have a fascination with murder and death and the dark side of life. You described a number of sensory differences, such as not being able to use metal cutlery and an intense aversion to bright or flashing lights and noises. It was noted that you used a squeezy ball during the ADOS assessment. You mentioned that you have a collection of different sensory or fidget toys which you find useful. Lawrence told your partner told us the sound of vibration hurts your ears and that some textures make you grit your teeth. You mentioned that you take fidget toys with you wherever you go. Imagination and creativity. You are a creative person who enjoys art, photography, poetry and music. You create structures online in Minecraft, although these tend to be replicas of existing buildings. You are aware of some of the tasks in the ADOS from research you had done in advance of the appointment, but you found the imaginative task in the ADOS somewhat challenging. You said you was finding it hard to understand what was happening in the picture book. When asked to tell the story, you described in simple terms what you could see on the page. When asked to create a story using objects, you used the objects as obstacles for the toy car to navigate around, but there was not a conventional narrative structure as you struggled to know how to end the story. Outcome of assessment. The information gathered during the assessment, as well as the comments from your partner and the referral process were discussed by the team and compared to the autism spectrum condition diagnosis criteria of the ICD-11. The conclusion from the multidisciplinary diagnostic assessment is that your social and behavioural profile is characterised of an autism spectrum condition, and therefore diagnosis of an autism spectrum condition is appropriate for you. The conclusion is agreed by analysis of the findings of the member of the multidisciplinary assessment panel. Advice and recommendations. Your diagnosis of ASC highlights a range of particular and individual needs for which you may require support and understanding. Accessing this support will be important not only to improve your well-being, over the short term, but also to prevent the possibility of difficulties in the future. It will be important for you as well as your friends and family to understand more about ASC and autism now that you have received your formal diagnosis. So that's pretty much my summary and report of my autism assessment. This is just kind of numbers and things like that. But yeah, so that was pretty much my overall summary. Sorry about stuttering and mispronouncing words. I suffer with dyslexia, so it is very difficult. But I hope this was an insightful video. Thank you all for watching, and take care, and bye for now.